doing all this work and look at the world, look at my situations, and I'm just lying in bed at night, awake, fearful, angry, and frustrated, and there is a pathway out. Hey everybody, Todd Jason here, and welcome to this video where I'm going to answer a question that came in from one of my clients. The purpose of doing this is that you can get some benefit, and today's question is a really big one that I think we all struggle with, and we all suffer from our own fears and our own doubts. And I'm going to read her question, and then I'm going to give you a 5-step process, which is really a couple of mindset shifts and some practices that you can use to dissolve your own version of fear and doubt. So let me go ahead and read her question first. Todd, I've listened to your stuff for years and also follow many other similar coaches and teachers. While I love what you all say and have certainly experienced benefits, I seem unable to fully dissolve my own negative thinking and fearful thoughts, no matter what I do. I have times when it goes away for a little bit, or at least it lessens, but I seem to have this constant negative chatter that makes me feel doubtful, small, limited, and to be honest, scared. I compare myself to others and I hate some of the things that I see in the world, and I want so badly to experience that spiritual liberation and life of flow and the great ease that you people always seem to talk about, but I have doubts that this will happen for me in this lifetime. What do you say to this? You see, I get a little emotional around this one because I know this so well and I still struggle with this. And I know so many people also think this way. And it's really the great mystery once we enter into this growth path and we say yes to letting go of our ego and letting go of all our limitations, how strong the doubt and the fear and the negativity in our minds, in our hearts even, can persist. It's humbling. And so I offer these recommendations as a way to hopefully ease some of your own suffering and, of course, the person who wrote this in. And the first recommendation that I have is to acknowledge your pattern, your roller coaster ride, and be okay with yours being a gradual awakening. This is really important because we get so enamored with and even addicted to watching videos here on YouTube or on the TED stage of people that had these spontaneous awakenings, and they were literally down and out, and something happened, and then boom, they're leading this life of massive success. They're wonderful, inspiring stories. Yet for 99.99% of us, that will not happen. For the rest of us, this is a gradual story, a gradual unfolding. And in fact, one of my favorite books is by Stephen Levine, and it's called The Gradual Awakening. And when I read it 20 years ago, I thought, wow, this is really it. This is a story of taking 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, 5 steps forward and then 4 steps back, 3 steps forward and then 2.5 steps back. But we keep pushing forward. And so the practice for this first one is just to breathe, just to be okay with your journey being gradual and letting it be what it is. And just right now, just letting it go. Again, I get emotional when I talk about this because I know so many people come to me behind closed doors and struggle with their own negative thinking and their fear and their doubt and their feeling of disconnection. Let's start by breathing into it and being okay with it and understanding that there is a pathway here. And while I might not have that spontaneous, immediate awakening where all of a sudden I am enlightened and everything is just gorgeous, I am on the path to getting there, and I trust that. The second piece is more tactical, and this one is to acknowledge your wins along the way. And I can't tell you how important this is. So many of us focus our time and energy in everything that we don't have, all the fear and the doubt, as was suggested here. But we also win often along the way, and especially when we put our hand up and say yes to a life of growth, a life of development, a life of striving to become our best self. We are constantly overcoming obstacles and changing our behaviors and our actions and our relationships in ways that are awesome and good and beneficial. And what I always recommend people to do is to get out a pen and paper and write it down when it happens. And let me give you an example. I had a client who was very successful in her career and loved what she did, but had a history of always choosing toxic bosses and work environments. And it really made her struggle, just constantly burned out, really having a ton of anxiety, couldn't sleep, It was one of those things where her life looked really good on the outside, but she struggled really mightily on the inside. That sound familiar to anybody? Sure it does. And we worked on this pattern to the point where she could make a different choice through awareness, through breathing, through letting go of this idea that her success needed to be tied up with toxicity. There was some belief in there deep down. And she opened up to the idea that her next job could actually be wonderful, where she could have a great boss that was kind and fair. And this is exactly what happened. I said, look, get out a pen and paper, put it in your journal, and write this story down of what you overcame, what you thought previously, and now what you believe and what you're experiencing. And I want you to put it up on your wall for a year and remind yourself that you can make deep, transcendent change just by believing. Because the next time you run into that painted corner where you feel like you can't get out of it, you have to remind yourself that you can. So the second recommendation and the second practice is to write down your wins. Now, the third recommendation is to, and we're going to go a little bit deeper here, but is to deepen your connection with your version of God, of the higher self, of the universe, or whatever it is that you call it. Now, while religion has certainly not done us any favors and given God a bad name, how many wars and killings have been done under the name of God, it doesn't stop the fact that 99.9% of us believe in some form of higher power, higher intelligence, some force, some creative impulse that we believe is outside of ourselves or deeply within ourselves, or both. Okay, we all have our beliefs around this. And the recommendation here is really look yourself in the mirror and forget about any cynicism or judgment. You don't have to express your views at the dinner table or anyone else, just to yourself. What are your beliefs around God and the universe? And even more, what is your connection with your belief? Now, the recommendation is specific here. And what I want you to do, if you don't already have this down, I want you to do this, is to determine what your specific name is for your version of God. As I've shared, there are some people that use the word God. Some people say peace. Some people call it the unified field, or the great intelligence, or the higher self, or it could be the Tao, or it could be Jesus. Whatever it is for you that resonates with your own personal understanding of the divine intelligence, name it. Name it and begin using it every day. Speak to it, connect to it, communicate with it by asking questions. The true path, the true liberation, which comes from the question, how do I dissolve my fear and my anxiety, is to start understanding that we're not alone, that we're not just these disconnected, isolated beings, that we are connected in ways that our cognitive intellect can understand. And when we really develop that capacity more and more, and no matter where you are in the journey, I know that you can do more of this. It will really start to work wonders on your internal experience of fear and doubt and dissolve it from the inside out. So name it and then play with it and communicate with that every single day. One of my favorite quotes is by Wayne Dyer, who says, "Good morning, this is God. I will be handling all of your problems today. I will not need your help. Go have a miraculous day." And that's the essence of it right there. The fourth piece is to forgive others. Now, forgiveness is perhaps the master quality that all the great wisdom traditions that I've studied say is the true pathway to living a harmonious life. So what I want you to do is to accelerate your awareness that everything you're experiencing on the outside world, all the people, all the situations, politically, economically, globally, relationally, these things are all happening and being processed by your own internal perceptions. At some point on the spiritual path, you realize this, that everything that's happening out there is being perceived by your inner awareness. And so while that can often be humbling, it also offers a pathway to liberation, doesn't it? Because if that's the case, then you have the ability to change your perceptions. You have the ability to create a new experience of the external by changing your perceptions internally. And the fastest, most powerful way to do this is by forgiving everything that you experience, because forgiveness is acceptance. And when we walk around this planet with the energetic of accepting and forgiving, everything opens up. The fear and the doubt and the limitation that you are perceiving dissolves by forgiving. This is why in every major wisdom tradition, from Taoism to Buddhism to Christianity, always around the forgiveness. So what I want you to do over the next 30 days is to live and breathe forgiveness. This does not mean that everything in the past changes. In fact, one of my favorite quotes about this is by Bernie Meltzer, a really great radio host from the 1950s, who said, "When you forgive, you in no way change the past, but you sure do change the future." So that's what this is about. And then the last piece, the fifth piece, is to play the long game in your life. And this is just so incredibly important because we're living in this world where everything is about immediate gratification. Even the question that came in that I'm answering was around, I'm just so tired of having this fear and this doubt. When we let go of the need to have everything solved right now, and we extend the timeline and look at things from a 5-year, 10-year, 50-year perspective, we relax and allow ourselves to undergo a more natural trajectory of healing. And so I want you to shift away from having to have everything right now to playing the long game and just making small adjustments each day to get yourself in more alignment with the things that you need to have happen. And this is really the pathway for making that big change. So I hope that these things help because, like I said, I've been emotional even recording this because I know this is something that so many of us are dealing with. And even the question of, I'm doing all this work and look at the world, look at my situations, and I'm just lying in bed at night, awake, fearful, and angry, and frustrated. And there is a pathway out. We just need to relax. We need to breathe. We need to forgive. We need to connect with our higher self or our version of God, and we need to start playing the long game. And we can do this. We just need to stay together. So I hope this helps, and big love.